Background camouflage. This is the most common form of camouflage found in nature, and it works on a single principle. Match the surface you rest on and disappear. Animals that use background camouflage have evolved skin, fur, or feathers that closely mirror the colors and textures of their most frequent environment. The peppered moth is one of the most studied examples. Before industrial pollution darkened the tree bark in England, the pale speckled version of this moth was nearly invisible against light-colored lichen. When soot turned the bark black, the darker moths survived and the pale ones were picked off. The environment changed and the animal that matched it lived. Background camouflage is not about being invisible everywhere. It is about being invisible in one specific place perfectly. Disruptive coloration. Most people assume that camouflage works by helping an animal blend in. Disruptive coloration works in the opposite direction. Instead of matching the background, it uses bold, high-contrast patterns to break up the outline of the animal's body so that a predator's eye cannot read it as a single recognizable shape. Zebras are the most visible example of this. A single zebra's stripes are striking. A herd of zebras moving together becomes a shifting, pattern-filled mass that makes it genuinely difficult for a lion to isolate and track one individual animal. The same logic applies to the orca's black and white markings and the tiger's vertical stripes in tall grass. The pattern is not designed to match anything. It is designed to confuse.
Active camouflage. The cuttlefish does something that still surprises researchers who have studied it for decades. It changes the color, pattern, and texture of its entire skin in under 1 second, matching whatever surface it moves across with extraordinary precision. This is active camouflage, the ability to update the disguise in real time rather than being born with a fixed one. The cuttlefish achieves this through specialized cells called chromatophores, which expand and contract to shift color, alongside iridophores that reflect and scatter light. What makes this remarkable is that cuttlefish are colorblind. They cannot see the colors they are replicating. How exactly they match their environment so precisely remains one of the genuinely open questions in animal biology.
Mimicry camouflage. Some animals do not hide from predators. They impersonate something else entirely. The mimic octopus, found in the shallow waters of Southeast Asia, can reshape its body and alter its movement to physically resemble other species. A flatfish, a lionfish, a banded sea snake, switching between them depending on which predator it is trying to discourage. This is mimicry camouflage, and it requires a level of behavioral flexibility that goes beyond simple pattern matching. The animal is not just looking like something, it is performing something. Stick insects take a simpler but equally effective approach, holding their bodies rigid among branches so that even their movement, or complete lack of it, is part of the disguise. Countershading. Open any field guide to ocean animals and you will notice a pattern almost immediately. Sharks, dolphins, tuna, penguins, dark on top, pale underneath. This is countershading, and it is one of the oldest and most widespread camouflage strategies in the animal kingdom. When sunlight hits an animal from above, the top of the body is illuminated and the underside falls into shadow, which creates a visible three-dimensional shape. Countershading cancels this out. The dark back absorbs more light and appears closer to mid-tone. The pale belly reflects more light and brightens from below. Seen from above, the dark back matches the deep water. Seen from below, the pale belly disappears into the bright surface. The animal becomes harder to find from every angle simultaneously.
Seasonal camouflage. The Arctic hare is brown in summer and white in winter, and the timing of this change is controlled not by temperature, but by the length of daylight hours. As the days shorten, hormonal signals trigger a full coat change so that by the time snow arrives, the animal is already white. Seasonal camouflage is a calendar-driven system built through thousands of generations of animals that survived because their color matched the season and died when it did not.
The stoat follows the same pattern. The ptarmigan, a bird of northern tundra, cycles through 3 distinct plumages across a single year, each one matched to a different phase of the landscape. The challenge for these animals now is that snow is arriving later and leaving earlier, while their biological clock runs on the same ancient schedule it always has.
Transparency. In the deep ocean and in shallow tropical waters alike, some animals solve the problem of camouflage by removing themselves from visibility entirely. The glass frog of Central and South America has skin so translucent that its beating heart and circulating blood are visible through its chest. Many juvenile fish in open ocean environments are nearly impossible to see because their bodies scatter so little light. The comb jellyfish is essentially a moving lens. Transparency works best in environments where there is no background to match: open water, bright air, uniform light. When there is nothing to blend into, becoming see-through is the only logical solution.
Shadow camouflage. The flat-tailed horned lizard of the American Southwest does something subtle that most prey animals never manage. When the sun is directly overhead and the lizard presses flat against the ground, it eliminates its own shadow. It achieves this through a fringe of flattened scales along its body edges that grades gradually from body color to the color of the soil beneath, so that even the transition between animal and ground is erased. Shadow camouflage acknowledges something that most other strategies ignore: that it is not always the animal's color that gives it away. Sometimes it is the darkness it casts on the ground beneath it. Remove the shadow, and you remove one of the most reliable visual cues a predator has. Behavioural camouflage. The bittern, a large wading bird found across Europe and Asia, has streaked brown and cream plumage that resembles dried reeds. But the plumage alone is not what makes it invisible in a reed bed. When threatened, the bittern raises its head, points its beak straight into the sky, and sways gently in rhythm with the reeds moving in the wind. The posture and the movement complete what the coloration begins. This is behavioral camouflage, the understanding encoded in instinct that looking right is only half of disappearing, moving right is the other half. Many caterpillars do the same, rocking gently on a branch to mimic the natural movement of a leaf in a breeze. The camouflage only works when the animal performs it correctly. Masquerade. A dead leaf mantis does not look like it is hiding. It looks like a dead leaf. This distinction matters more than it might seem. Most camouflage strategies aim to make an animal undetectable. Masquerade aims to make an animal detectable, just as something harmless and uninteresting. Predators that spot a dead leaf mantis see a dead leaf and move on. The animal is visible but misidentified. Barren caterpillars masquerade as the leaves they rest on, matching not just the color, but the exact shape, veining, and even the imperfections of a specific leaf type. The mossy frog of Vietnam replicates clumps of moss so precisely that it has been picked up by researchers who initially mistook it for plant material. Masquerade requires a more specific evolved match than simple background blending, because the animal is not disappearing into a general environment, it is becoming a specific object. Silvering. Deep-water fish, such as herring and sardines, have scales that function as mirrors. Their sides are lined with crystals of guanine arranged at precise angles to reflect the ambient light coming from above, so that the fish appears to emit the same light as its surroundings from every viewing angle. In open water with no background to match, this reflective strategy effectively makes the fish vanish into its own environment. The light that would reveal it instead passes straight through the visual field as ambient glow. Silvering is particularly effective in the upper ocean layers, where light is plentiful and diffuse. It breaks down in deeper water where bioluminescence creates directional light sources that reflective scales cannot account for, which is why deep ocean fish tend to use darkness and counter-illumination instead. Counter-illumination. At depths where no sunlight reaches, some animals produce their own light to disappear. The firefly squid and several species of deep-sea fish carry light-producing organs on their undersides called photophores, which emit a faint downward glow precisely matched to the residual light filtering from above. A predator looking up from below would normally see a dark silhouette against the faint surface light. Counter-illumination erases that silhouette by filling it in with matching light. The animal becomes part of the background it is moving against, even in the dark. Some species can adjust the intensity of their photophores in real time to compensate for changing light levels as they move through the water column, making counter-illumination one of the most dynamically controlled camouflage systems that exists anywhere in nature.